It is November 1973. Life is good for Cliff and Linda Burnhart. They are childhood sweethearts, married for 4 years, who've just built a home together a month before. They work hard, but they also play hard, with a large circle of friends and family. They never suspect that something terrible is on the horizon. A tragedy is about to occur, a tragedy that rips the Burnharts and the community apart. This friendly neighborhood will never be the same.
A ripple of fear spreads across Billings. There is an unknown killer about, and no one knows if or when they will strike next.
The stymied detectives even consult a famous psychic. The mystery of who killed the Burnharts will go unsolved for almost 4 decades, until new technology finally gives the police a chance to help find the killer.
The unsolved ones, we have to stand up
and approach these cases in a way outside the box.
Let the world know, those out there that did commit a murder, there are people that are coming after you.
There's just a lot of good people trying to do the right thing.
Because it's something that you have to be passionate about.
Solve this, bring some peace to the family at least. Just doing my job.
On a cold November morning in 1973, police are called by June Reich, who is horrified by the discovery of the bodies of her daughter and son-in-law lying face down in adjacent bedrooms. It's clear the young couple has been murdered. Police see that the tracks going to and from the home are already covered in snow, leaving little evidence.
This makes it more difficult for investigators to find the evidence they need.
The quiet street is alerted by police that something has gone on. Inside, however, there is a scene unimaginable to the neighbors. Police try to make sense of what has happened, as well as gathering what evidence they can. They can only assume that the couple has been dead for some time, and that the killer untied them before fleeing the scene.
He is strong and fit. He was a sergeant in the U.S. Army. The killer likely catches Clifford by surprise, rendering him unconscious with a blow to the head.
Police try to make sense of what has happened, as well as gathering as much evidence as they can.
The fact that the perpetrator ties Clifford up and also strangles him after the initial attack shows just how much he didn't want Clifford to regain consciousness.
Several of the investigators believe that the killer used something like a pair of pliers to gain such strength. It was never certain what was used to kill the victim.
Linda's murder is particularly brutal. She is assaulted and raped and then strangled with a leather cord.
This crime scene reveals an element of a cover-up. The windows of both bedrooms are open. The thermostat is at its lowest setting, and there's a bowl of ice cubes left next to Linda's body. Perhaps the killer did this to give himself time before the body is discovered, or maybe to conceal the time of death.
It's critical to establish the time of death for eliminating suspects or evaluating their alibis. This could provide another clue for investigators. Someone who puts this much time and effort into concealing the time of death or slowing decomposition is trying to distance himself from the crime or establish an alibi.
Investigators are faced with numerous challenges, and one more is about to be revealed. Linda's mother tells police that when she arrived, the table had been set for 3. The 3 place settings especially interest investigators. With no sign of forced entry, a struggle, or anything of value missing, it's likely the killer is someone the Burnharts know.
The mysterious dinner guest has to be one of the last people to see the young couple alive.
The location of the crime scene is in Billings Heights, which makes Yellowstone County responsible for the investigation. But from the beginning, Billings police worked collaboratively with the county police to solve the double murder. Billings is the largest city in Montana. About 100,000 people live in the community when Linda and Clifford built their new home and settled on the outskirts of Billings Heights. Nicknamed the Magic City because of its rapid growth and economy, Billings began as a railroad town in 1882. Though it's a bustling city, it also offers a lot to those who enjoy nature, wildlife, and getting away from it all. Billings is a gateway to the Yellowstone National Park and the Little Bighorn Battlefield National Monument. The Burnharts spend much of their time working. Clifford works at a concrete company, while Linda stocks shelves at a grocery warehouse. Here, she has many co-workers and acquaintances.
To those who know them, the Burnharts are a very content couple. They are childhood sweethearts who are very devoted to each other.
Linda and Clifford begin dating in junior high and marry 2 years after graduating from high school. Linda's sister, Kelly Reich, remembers that once the couple met, they were always together. You never saw Linda without Cliff.
Clifford serves in Cambodia and Vietnam with the 1st Cavalry Division until he is released in 1971. During his military service, he achieves the rank of sergeant and is awarded a Purple Heart.
After 4 years of marriage, the couple build a home together in Billings Heights.
Investigators canvass the neighborhood.
The Burnharts' murder greatly impacts their neighborhood. Residents of Billings Heights aren't accustomed to violent crime, especially a double murder.
The neighborhood was considered safe, but now people are starting to lock their doors.
Billings Heights is a quiet community where neighbors know each other, and people tend to not lock their doors. The double murder of the Burnharts, a well-liked young couple, changes everything.
A ripple of fear spreads across Billings. There is an unknown killer about, and no one knows if or when they will strike next.
The killer leaves behind one crucial piece of evidence, a stain on Linda's pants detectives believe to be semen.
Although DNA testing wasn't available in criminal investigations until the mid-1980s, police still recognize the stain as a valuable clue. Thankfully, they have the foresight to preserve it.
The evidence gathered is not giving any breaks or suspects, so they cast a wider net. Police take a hard look at the men in the area who've been convicted of sex crimes.
Without obvious suspects, the next step for investigators is establishing a time frame.
Now it comes down to the basics of homicide investigation.
Who saw the victims last? Did anyone in the neighborhood hear or notice anything unusual?
Detectives are again frustrated, with no leads of substance.
What's important to remember here is that these men haven't done anything wrong. They're only being questioned because of their past criminal history. Nothing else implicates them in this case.
Police also question people who know the victims, including some of Linda's co-workers.
But Linda had many co-workers and acquaintances. As the investigation looks wider, investigators are hopeful.
But no obvious motive or suspect emerges.
The fact that the couple is well liked makes it even harder to zero in on a suspect. Linda's work should provide some detail or information to the stonewalled detectives.
By all reports, the couple is well known and respected.
No one seems to have an issue worth committing a murder.
Someone must know something about what happened on the night of November 6th, but no one is talking.
Based on the sexual attacks against Linda, investigators believe that she is the killer's original target. Her husband just got in the way. But who would want to kill the perfect couple, and why? On a snowy evening in Montana on November 6, 1973, Linda and Clifford Burnhart are brutally murdered in their own home. The crime scene is cleaned, and no motive is immediately apparent. Investigators believe the killer is someone the couple knows. But they have no obvious suspects. The well-liked couple's murderer has eluded everyone working on the case.
Clifford and Linda are unlikely victims. Cliff is a physically strong former soldier who is proficient with weapons. Having been struck on the back of the head, it's likely he doesn't see what's coming.
Adding to the mystery is the bowl of ice cubes on the table and the open windows. Determining the time of death is harder. Although investigators don't have a strong suspect yet, they're beginning to believe they have a motive. They discover something is missing from the crime scene. The killer, clearly up to something deviant.
One of Clifford's suitcases, along with all of Linda's underwear and some of her shoes, are missing from the crime scene. This, combined with the assault on Linda, points to a sexual motive. Clifford is at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Police consider the Burnharts to be unlikely victims. Their lifestyle suggests they wouldn't normally be at risk of a violent crime.
Low-risk victims avoid trouble, do not have criminal acquaintances, are aware of their surroundings, and generally take precautions not to become victims. Based on photographs and the investigators' notes, the crime scene is unusually clean. There are no signs of a struggle. This indicates the killer may be someone the couple knows. But no one can think of anyone who has a grudge against them.
With no leads or obvious suspects, police begin questioning locals with criminal records.
A young couple has been murdered, and it's important for these men to cooperate with law enforcement, so they can be eliminated as suspects as soon as possible. However, Sometimes even innocent people can become confused or flustered during police questioning, so it's critical that these men have legal support during the interviews.
Despite numerous interviews, police come up empty. All of the men questioned by the detectives have alibis, and their crimes don't match the evidence found at the Burnhart's home. Running out of options, investigators turn to the FBI for help. The FBI forms its behavioral science unit in 1972 in response to a disturbing rise in sexual assault and homicide cases. By studying crime scenes and interviewing killers and other violent criminals, members of the BSU have shown they can accurately profile an unknown suspect.
By analyzing the details of a crime, FBI profilers often identify important behavioral and personality traits of an unknown offender. Certain crime scenes reveal patterns that give clues about an offender's personality and lifestyle, which allows investigators to predict future activity. The FBI profile of the killer paints a picture of a man who is acquainted with the Burnharts and may be infatuated with Linda.
But who is concealing this dangerous obsession? And how did he win the couple's trust? And where is he now?
Linda is the oldest child of 4. She has 2 brothers and a sister. Clifford has 4 sisters. Linda's sister, Kelly Reach, says Linda always wanted to be a school teacher and very much wanted to be a mother. The couple wants to have 2 children. Linda's friends describe her as feisty. One of her close friends, Kathy Keepers, said she could be a lot of fun and she had a good head on her shoulders.
Even though Clifford works for a concrete company and is known for his strength, friend Kathy Keepers says he is especially gentle, especially with his wife. He's also very funny and a people person who enjoys having friends around. Two clues of substance are the lasagna and the table setting. Someone was coming to dinner.
After a full day at their jobs, Linda and Clifford do the night shift at Linda's parents' carpet cleaning business. They also do the construction work on their new home themselves.
In spite of investigations into locals known to have hurt women, and after conducting hundreds of interviews, investigators still haven't identified anyone in the area who'd committed a similar crime.
Investigators build a case file of over 3,600 pages, but eventually, they have to admit there are no new leads. The case goes cold. While the case idles, investigators wonder whether somewhere in the case files, with witness interviews and evidence gathered, an answer to the question as to who did this can be found. Kelly Reich, Linda's sister, says that the couple were just good kids. Young, starting their life out, they had a future ahead of them, and for whatever reason tragedy strikes. They didn't deserve this. If only the investigators had known that the Burnhart's killer was among those grieving for them. But instead, it would take decades to know his identity. Linda Burnhart and her husband Clifford plan to have dinner with her parents that evening. But when a snowstorm hits Billings, Montana, her parents end up staying at work late. Linda's parents then become concerned when their daughter and her husband fail to show up and work a scheduled night shift. Unable to reach her daughter by phone, Linda's mother drops by the following morning. She tries the front door, but gets no response. Then moves on to the back door. What she discovers is every parent's worst nightmare.
The crime scene is unusually clean. There are no signs of a struggle.
Despite hundreds of interviews, an FBI profile of the suspect, and the combined dedication of both the Billings and the Yellowstone County Police, investigators have no solid leads and no witnesses in the murders of Linda and Clifford Burnhart.
When a case goes cold, it's incredibly frustrating. And crimes don't stop happening just because you're currently investigating one. Eventually, you have to turn your attention to other cases, but that doesn't mean you forget. Some crime scenes haunt you forever.
Although all signs point to the killer being someone the Burnharts know, police can't find anyone who wants to hurt the well-liked couple, or who has a grudge against them. But there is something more to the investigation. A series of small events involving the mother that might have helped understand what happened.
Investigators discover that after Linda's mother finds the bodies, she's so upset that she starts cleaning up the kitchen while waiting for police to arrive.
Unfortunately, both the snowstorm on the night of the murder and the crime scene tampering make the investigators' work a lot more difficult.
Although detectives suspect a third person arrived for dinner with the Burnharts, they will never be 100% sure. Any conclusive evidence has been lost.
One of the most crucial responsibilities of responding officers is preserving the integrity of the crime scene. The more people who interfere with the crime scene after the fact, the greater the chance that valuable evidence will be compromised.
As investigators struggle to piece together a crime scene and find a suspect, Linda and Clifford Burnhart's funeral is held in the same church where they were married just 4 years before. Linda's sister, Kelly Reich, says the murders tear the family apart. She is a high school student when she loses her sister, and her life is never the same. She says, it changes your whole life. You don't know how to deal with it. Until it happens, you can't really understand it. With no suspects, no fingerprints or footprints, and no obvious motive aside from the sexual attack on Linda, the case goes cold. But even so, investigators never forget the young married couple who were slain in their own home, the one place they should have been able to feel safe. The detectives never stop trying to find the Burnhart's killer. Some of the faces and the names change over the years, but the determination remains the same. In 1980, a famous mentalist called the Great Kreskin visits Billings. investigators appeal to him for help with the Burnhart's case. Born George Joseph Kresge in 1935, the amazing Kreskin is an American mentalist who becomes popular on television in the 1970s, though he always presents himself as an entertainer, never as a psychic. Police occasionally come to him for help with their toughest cases.
It's very unusual for investigators to resort to asking psychics or mentalists for assistance with a case. But when you run out of leads, you'll get help wherever you can find it.
Kreskin continues to help police solve cases into the 2000s. He teaches classes to law enforcement that focus on psychological techniques, and by 2015, claims to have helped solve 83 crimes.
It's unclear what the amazing Kreskin tells detectives, but whatever it is, they're no closer to solving the case.
Hopes by the officers in the Great Kreskin fade, and the case resumes being cold.
There's always value in reviewing old case files. No matter how thorough the investigation is conducted, there's always something that's been missed or deserving of a closer look.
But what was missed? The amazing Kreskin may not hold the answer to this tragic case, but science does. The killer may not be known, but there is new hope given by advances in forensics. It takes a few years more, but eventually technology will help detectives catch up with a killer. Seven years after junior high school sweethearts, Clifford and Linda Burnhart are murdered. Detectives still refuse to give up hope of catching their killer. When the amazing Kreskin, a famous TV mentalist, visits Billings in the 1980s, investigators appeal to him for answers. Unfortunately, even the help of the amazing Kreskin can't bring the detectives closer to finding this killer. The case remains cold. But there is something that can still break the mystery.
Police are reasonably certain the Burnharts are killed by someone they know and trust. Someone they may have invited over for dinner. But how is this man able to hide his dangerous obsession from those around him? And how long before he kills again?
In 2005, detectives finally get a break in the case. Forensic scientists are able to analyze a DNA sample from the stain on the pants Linda is wearing the night she is murdered.
DNA is often used to solve cold cases. DNA samples were often taken and preserved long before the technology was available to properly analyze them.
we always owe a huge debt of gratitude to the original crime scene investigators, because even before they could have known how powerful DNA would be, they somehow collected that evidence for us to work with almost 50 years in the future.
Well, long after the original investigation, the case might just get a chance to reveal who the murderer is.
Unfortunately, there's no match for the profile in the FBI database. Which means there's no previous DNA sample from the killer, or the murderer doesn't have a criminal record.
With no match, there is always the possibility that the killer's DNA will be added to the databank. And with such a violent double murder, there is a high probability that he may someday be added.
Normally, we see an escalation with criminals who commit violent crimes of this sort. A double murder isn't usually the first crime someone commits. Often they start with petty thievery, voyeurism, domestic violence, stalking, or break-and-enters. For this person to have no criminal history at all is highly unusual.
The murder of the Burnharts seems to be a crime of passion committed by someone who is obsessed with Linda, someone who never kills again. The same old questions from the initial investigation still haunt the case.
Inviting a guest for dinner is a fateful decision for Clifford and Linda. But who would want to hurt this couple, and how did the killer manage to hide in plain sight?
In 2012, Yellowstone County forms a cold case unit, and the Burnhart murders are one of its top priorities.
While cold case units have been effective in solving long dormant cases, it's frustrating, painstaking work. In the Burnhart case, thousands of hours of investigation lead to a dead end. But detectives don't give up. The investigators never forget the families or the young couple whose bright future is cut devastatingly short. This case is personal to them. Linda's sister, Kelly Reich, says the police put their personal feelings into it and took ownership of it. I think it's become more than a job to them.
In 2013, an anonymous donor offers a $100,000 reward for information leading to the arrest and conviction of the Burnhart's killer. But this incentive does not introduce any significant leads. It looks like the murderer will have gotten away with it for now almost 40 years. But technology catches up with the killer.
4 decades, all those years of wading through cases, pounding the pavement, knocking on doors. Finally, it's about to pay off.
A crack opens, and investigators finally might have what's needed to solve this case. After 42 years with no answers, investigators are finally closing in on their killer. The truth will shock and horrify everyone who loved Linda and Clifford Burnhart. The detectives have finally been led to a possible suspect that could help solve the case. One who's alive and being traced through DNA genealogy. But they need confirmation.
Investigators often can tell a lot how a suspect reacts to the request for a DNA sample. Those who refuse to comply usually have something to hide. It's worthwhile to closely observe a suspect's demeanor and behavior.
In 2018, Parabon Nanolabs, a private genealogy clinic in Virginia, produces a composite sketch with the suspect's skin, hair, and eye color.
Parabon had worked with the department to predict the suspect's traits. So they had created that snapshot phenotype. And that sometimes is enough to generate leads.
Parabon uses GenMatch, a public genetic genealogy database that compares the crime scene DNA with 1.2 million available profiles. This identifies 2 solid leads in the case, but only one of them is still alive.
2 brothers, but only one of those brothers had ever lived in Billings. We couldn't connect the other brother to that location at all. Now, that's not to say he couldn't have been visiting, but in the vast majority of our cases, we are finding that these suspects live very close to the crime scene. And so it was quite apparent to us which one of those brothers was a much stronger candidate than the other.
With millions of people voluntarily undergoing DNA testing in order to research their family trees, more profiles are available to investigators than ever before.
The DNA genealogy research brings it down to 2 brothers, but basic detective work quickly brings that down to just one, a man known to Linda, Cecil Stan Caldwell. Inviting Cecil for dinner is a fateful decision by Linda, but she never suspects that someone they trust will turn on them. While the DNA sample eliminates the man that detectives tested, it incriminates his brother. A man who once worked at the grocery warehouse with Linda. At some point, Caldwell enters the home. He has not forced his way in. He is let in by one of the Burnharts. Detectives believe that Caldwell is the man that is invited to the Burnhart home the night of the murders. What leads to the horrific events and the murder of the Burnharts will never be known. There's no one to explain what happened and why Caldwell did what he did after committing the murders. Did someone else know that Caldwell was at the Burnharts that night, causing the killer to go to the length of opening the windows and leaving a bowl of ice to conceal the time of death? Caldwell died in 2003 at the age of 59. He'll never stand trial for the murders of Linda and Clifford Burnhart.
In March 2019, the cold case investigators announced the resolution of the case. Caldwell has no criminal record. He lived in Billings his whole life, and he was married twice. He was the father of 2 adopted children and 2 stepchildren.
Caldwell was listed in the original investigation files as someone who worked with Linda and therefore should have been interviewed. But for some reason, the police never did talk to him.
Investigators, family, and friends will never know what goes through Caldwell's mind on that terrible night, or what drives him to murder a woman who had always been kind to him.
Other than an assumed sexual obsession for Linda, no motive for the crime is found.
No 2 people have the same DNA, so DNA evidence can prove a person's guilt or innocence with great accuracy. Studies suggest that forensic DNA analysis is roughly 95% accurate.
Scott Goodwin, a volunteer with the Cold Case Unit, says the investigators were obsessed with this case. There are 2 young people who didn't deserve what happened to them.
Sadly, many questions remain unanswered for the victim's family. Many of them leave Billings, and Linda's parents aren't alive to find out who murdered their daughter.
Linda's sister, Kelly Reich, says that she appreciated the sheriff's department and all their hard work, taking a case that wasn't going anywhere and bringing it back to life.
Investigators could never reveal Caldwell's motive.
Investigators had spoken to an ex-wife who said that he had a suitcase full of panties.
Which is certainly, questionable. And I think the way he tried to cover his tracks with the crime scene definitely implies somebody more sophisticated. And so even though we don't know of any other crimes he committed, I would not be at all surprised if there were other crimes out there that are tied to him. We just don't have DNA on them. If there's DNA that was left and has been stored all these years, then we would potentially be able to tie him to other crimes. But if he got even smarter and made sure he didn't leave DNA behind, then we would probably never know.
Without the advent of genealogical DNA and companies gathering DNA privately online, this case may not have been solved.